Apu, you can start.
Namaste, Pranam. Welcome friends to Virat Hindustan Sangam YouTube channel. Today we have a special episode of Gyan Ganga, also known as the Words of Wisdom with Dr. Subramanian Swamy. With this episode, we are taking Gyan Ganga to the continent of Australia. Thank you, Dr. Swamy, for virtually visiting us in Australia and making time to speak to us. I would like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we work and live, and recognize their continuing connection to the land, water, and community. I pay respect to elders past, present, and emerging. With that, I would request the Vice President of Virat Hindustan Sangam, Dr. Poonam Sharma, to start with the first question.
Dr. Swamy, namaste and welcome. As Indians living overseas, we look to you with hope to defend Dharma in India. Having been an NRI yourself, I'm sure you will understand our angst. So often, we, the diaspora, look on helplessly as our fellow Hindus and our way of living are attacked and ridiculed, not just in countries like Pakistan and Bangladesh, but even in our own India. As you'll agree, those attacking or ridiculing Hindus include the conversion mafia, the media, the movie industry, urban Naxals, and sometimes even the Indian judiciary. Would you agree that we Hindus need to stop being apologetic? Is being a Virat Hindu a solution? And to those who are new to the VHS, could you please explain this term, its meaning, and how we as overseas Hindus can contribute to building this mindset?
Yeah.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Well, first of all, the definition, Virat usually means multidimensional. When Krishna appeared finally before Arjuna to convince him, he took a form which
Please bear with us. Some issue. I'll be right back. Actually, I'm looking into it. I'll be right back. Meanwhile, Rajyati, you can jump. You can give us some introduction. We can introduce the team.
Yeah, please bear with us. There is some technical hitch from Delhi, but we will be back on the line. By the time Dr. Swamy comes, I could just tell you briefly about Virat Hindustan Sangam. Virat Hindustan Sangam was formed in September 2014 in India. We earlier used to have these Twitter conferences, and during the Twitter conferences where all friends of people who believed in Hindutva and anti-corruption crusade in India got together periodically and formed the organization Virat Hindustan Sangam under the presidency of Dr. Swamy. Dr. Swamy is back with us. I'll continue this thing after some time when my turn comes, but Dr. Swamy is back with us. So over to Dr. Swamy. Sorry, viewers, for the short interruption.
My TV seems to have conked out.
Yeah.
I think somebody must have put a bug there.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. You see, the concept of Virat is, as I said, Krishna showed his full form before Arjuna towards the end of Bhagavad Gita. And that means it's basically multidimensional. You have a variety of roles in life, and these variety of roles which you need to perform together constitute your Virat existence. And of course, to be a full person, you have to play a role in all that. So a Virat Hindu is someone who knows what being a Hindu is. And the problem today, and much less today than say when I was a schoolboy, is that there is a deep inferiority complex which has been installed into the Indian by distorting our history. Our history is actually spectacular. First of all, we were the most developed country, certainly till the 1750. And that is documented not by Indians, Indian nationalists, but by Western scholars, Angus Madison and so on. And these are available in journals, and they're even if you go and type in Google Angus Madison, you will see that his works will be, the reference will be given. What it shows is that till 1750, we were the most developed country of the world, but from 1100 and or rather towards the end of 1100, around 1200 onwards, we started declining. And behind us was China all through. And around 1750, China overtook India. And then after in the British rule and the Chinese again we came together and we were about the same in 1952. Now, most people don't know that. In fact, many students, when I started teaching at Harvard, these were both Indians and foreigners, they said, but the British brought you locomotives, the British brought you English, British brought you steel plants and so on. That's not the correct history. I don't want to go into detail, but the more important history is that India is the only country which, after being conquered by the Islamic forces, did not convert 100% to Islam. Iran was one of the most powerful empires. They went right up to Greece, and their King Cyrus was all over the place. That civilization was attacked by Islam, and in almost 15 years, they became 100% Muslim. The same thing goes for Mesopotamia, Babylon, which is now known as Iraq. 17 years. Egypt, pharaohs, this, that. Today it's an Islamic country, and it took just 21 years. Europe in 50 years became 100% Christian. But India was for 600 years under attack from Islam till we defeated them. People don't, our students don't know that. Baji Rao defeated of the Peshwas, led the Maratha army and defeated them decisively when the entire forces of Aurangzeb came to fight him, and he defeated them. Islam was finished. Today, can you tell me who's the descendant of Aurangzeb? I am told that one who claims today is staying in unauthorizedly in Sialda railway station waiting room, and she's not been evicted so far. They're probably waiting for her to pass away. But anyway, the 600 years of Islam at most could do, even in the United India, which included Afghanistan, all which had already gone to Islam before. Excluding those, we have only 13-14% Islam even today. Now, this is unparalleled because people don't realize every part of India kept fighting. Vijayanagaram fought and defeated Islam and ruled this country on a longer territory and a longer period than the Mughals. But see our history book, there's hardly one paragraph reference, if at all. Whereas you have one chapter for each Mughal Bacha. The faraway Assam Ahom dynasty, which was a Hindu kingdom, they were proudly Hindu. They spread Hinduism in Northeast, was spread by the Ahom dynasty. They defeated Mughals 6 times because the Mughals wanted to come and cross into Southeast Asia, but they stopped them and defeated them 6 times. Guru Gobind Singh, I mean, his valor, and the British, of course, wanted to shame them. So they said, 12 baje. 12 baje, why? Because midnight every day, Guru Gobind Singh's people will go attack the camps of the Mughals and free the women. And so they were called 12 baje by the Muslim. And after that, the British converted that into that they go mad at 12. And we unthinkingly used to say 12 baje, 12 baje. So Shivaji, of course, everybody now, thanks to Bal Thackeray, I think Shivaji has been made very famous. Rana Pratap, he refused to give. Once he was defeated, he went to stay in the forest eating grass. And then he came back, and in Haldighat, he defeated the Muslims and resumed his throne in Udaipur. Where is this taught in our... How can you have a mindset when you have this feeling of inferiority? Same thing with Sanskrit. It is the most glorious language ever produced. It's coming back now thanks to artificial intelligence and so on. They are teaching Sanskrit more vigorously in the Western countries than in India. Even today, they will say, "Oh, it's a dead language." When even today, large numbers of people speak. There are villages which are 100% Sanskrit speaking. You can go to Mattu, I think Mattu or something like that in Karnataka, and Sanskrit words are there in every language. When I argued with Karunanidhi that Sanskrit and Tamil are sisters, he said, no, but Tamil is pure. There's not a single connection with Sanskrit. I said there are 40% words which are common, which are in Sanskrit in Tamil. He said, no, it's not possible. I said, your own name, Karunanidhi, is Sanskrit. Please go and change it. Do you know that? And after that, he stopped talking about Sanskrit, except saying it's now a northern language, something. So these are the things that have to be taught. That's why in Virat, Hindustan Sangam, we say, first and foremost, know your identity. We are one people. Aryan, Dravidian, 2 nations. How is that? The only way to prove it is by DNA, and all genetic studies show that we are the same people. There may be people coming here in small driplets, like the Greeks may have come, like the Thai people may have come, but the majority structure of DNA is the same, whether you are from Jamnagar or Dibrugarh, whether you are from Srinagar or you are from Madurai, the same DNA. Complexion can vary because of the sun. Closer you are to the equator, the more likely that your skin will darken. But it's got nothing to do with race. Race, there's only one thing that counts, and that is DNA. And this kind of history we have to teach. I'm happy to say that after hectic fighting, because there were people who resisted, and in this family atmosphere, I can tell you it was Mr. Jetli who blocked it in the beginning. And now, finally, the other day, I got a telephone call from the Human Resources Development Minister. And the first thing I asked him was, what have you done about textbook revolution, reform? So, we have a textbook committee for NCERT, which prescribes books for these children and for colleges. And in that, we have a Naxalite lady who is the dominant figure. And for 6 years, we have been in power and they couldn't remove her. Now, after, I think our people just think that coming to power on the backs of Hindutva is enough. In Uttarakhand, they've gone and nationalized 51, all the temples, all the Char Dhams and the other temples, they have nationalized. And I pleaded with the party, please give them a direction to withdraw that act, stupid act. silence. So I have gone to the High Court, and the final hearing is on Monday, and I'm hoping to win it. I won a case like these cases in the South, but they were different governments. This is the first time I'll be challenging the BJP government. So I think Virat Hindus first must know your true history. You must know your identity. You are one people. And three, you must learn Sanskrit or teach your children Sanskrit or teach your grandchildren Sanskrit. And you should fight in your schools to make Sanskrit optional. It's a language no more of the past, it's a language of the future. Then you should learn our economics, which was given a brief shape by Dindayal Upadhyay, and which is that material progress has to be harmonized with spiritualism. And that is why in our structure, the highest is a person who is a Gyani and a Tyagi. He'll have no wealth, he'll have no weapons, he'll have no land, but he'll have Gyan. And we call them Brahmins. Unfortunately, it's become a birth-based thing. You need an authority to tell you that the Varna system has got nothing to do with birth. Read the Gita, where he clearly says it's got nothing to do with birth. Krishna in these explicit words says that. It's gunas, he said. If you've got a guna for Gyan and you're willing to give up everything else for it, then you're a Brahmin. Not necessarily if you're born. Vishwamitra was born in a Kshatriya family, became Rishi of Rishis. And the same thing with Veda Vyasa, with Karl Valmiki. Valmiki, in fact, was born in a Dalit family. So all these put together, my view is that you can change the mindset if you start educating your younger generation that your identity, that you're one people from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from the easternmost part of, say, Dibrugarh, and westernmost part of Jamnagar, and this whole canvas, you're one people, and that you are not divided by anything else except your chosen profession, and that is not birth-based. So that then, of course, you will certainly, if you make money and more than you need, be philanthropic. If you have land, work for ensuring self-sufficiency in food grains in our country, and to empower the landless laborers. And of course, the state policy should be like that too. So this way, you can create a new society.
Thank you very much, Dr. Swamy.
Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you for explaining everything so clearly, and there's lots of foods for thought. Could I please hand you over now to Dr. Rajiv Ratan to ask a follow-up question? Dr. Rajiv is part of our leadership of VHS Australia. Thank you.
Namaste, Dr. Swamy, and welcome. Welcome to Australia virtually. It is the peak of winter here, while for you in Delhi, it's the peak of summer. Thank you very much. I think it was a very, very enlightening answer that you gave there. There was something that you alluded to there with regards to the governmental control of Hindu temples. And my next question is pertaining to that issue. We wanted to hear your thoughts on that. Yeah. And we do realize that during the British Raj, probably the government at that point in time started to control the Hindu temples because of the revenue that the temples would earn for the government. But it's now been 73 years of independence, and still, as you yourself mentioned, still Hindu temples continue to be under governmental control. Some people even go to the extent of saying that because Hindus are not able to manage their own temples and their own issues, therefore the government has to control them. So it was very, very interesting to hear your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Well, on your last comment, that's what Churchill said. Indians can't manage their own country, so we have to be there. So, I mean, it's the most stupid argument I've ever heard. Indians are managing big corporations in the United States of America. So you mean the white Americans can't manage the Amazon or Microsoft or any of those big corporations there? See, the thing is that your core question is about the ownership of the temples by the state. These are all 99% except this Uttarakhand one, and I think one in Maharashtra when Fadnavis was the chief minister. And there's one more in some other state. But generally, all the temples, and there'll be about 400,000 such temples, which are under state control. The state, the Constitution of India does not bar the state from intervening in case a particular temple is not being managed financially, administratively. But it cannot intervene saying that they are preaching something which is not to the liking of the state. So that the Constitution allows. So to draw the boundaries for that, I finally went for the first time to liberate a temple called the Sabanayaka Nataraj Temple, which is in a town called Kadalur. It's the most ancient Shiva temple in the whole of India. And the priests are called Dikshitas because to have that temple to be administered, a whole community of Dikshits from Jaunpur in UP moved to Kadalur, and then hereditary, they did nothing else except create priests. All the children were priests. Of course, during the British time, temple was a place for congregation. Temple was a place for inspiration. Temple was the place where Brahmins were feeding this crazy idea of independence from the British point of view. That was a crazy point of view. So they wanted this to be destroyed. And that's how the Brahmins of Tamil Nadu in particular, where the whole thing started, I've ended up as babus or, working for somebody else. Now, the court, when I did this because Karunanidhi from at least 50 years has been saying one temple I must get my hands on. And that is the Sabanayaka Nataraj Temple. And unless that is there, Hinduism will not be eliminated from Tamil Nadu. So finally, in 2009, he took over the temple by saying that the finances are being mismanaged. And therefore, we had taken it over. Once they took it over, the Dikshitas or the Pujaris, they were harassed. Some of them had court cases to go to. All kinds of things happened. So all the sadhus got together under the leadership of Swami Dayanand Saraswati of Coimbatore and urged me that you should take up this case. Now, when did they urge me? When the Dikshitas had gone to the administrative court, which is the first court, then they went to the High Court, single judge, double division bench, that is 2 judges, and then they lost their nerve, and they couldn't come to Delhi to go to the Supreme Court. So at that time, Swami Dayanand Saraswati said, we have all resolved that you should take it. At that time, my experience was only fighting corruption, like 2G and things like that. I never got into this temple thing at all. And so I went to the, I was sure that my petition would be thrown out because it was an appeal. And it was not an appeal by the Dikshitas, but an appeal by a total outsider. And never in the history of Supreme Court, unless you could show that the people affected have been imprisoned or they have been killed and so on, under those rare cases would they allow outside to come. And especially when the Congress was in power, which was in alliance with DMK. I never thought it would happen, but Swami Dayanand Saraswati said, all we sadhus have joined together and I'm going to do a big puja for you and a big havan for you. So go, some way will come. Now, when I went, the bench was a man called Kabir, a Muslim, and another was a Christian. And these two were the most secular people you could think of. And here I was that time running a campaign for Ram Mandir and about this, all my theories about Hindutva. So appearing before these two judges, I said, I don't know what pujas Swami Dayananda Saraswati and others have done. I have no chance before this time. So the first thing the justice, who was Chief Justice, perhaps later, said to me, Justice Kabir, who are you, he asked me, to be here? And that's a legal question. It's not an insulting question. Who are you? In the newspapers, they put out, oh, they asked him, who are you? He's a nobody who turned up. It's a question, who are you representing? I said, I'm representing the people of Tamil Nadu and the India general. On what basis? So fortunately, there was a apex organization of sadhus called the Hindu Dharma Acharya Sabha. And Swami Dayananda Saraswati's chairman had appointed me as the legal, as the chief of the legal cell, as the convener of the legal cell. So I used that. I said, I am this. So then, surprising, both of them said, okay, we'll hear you. And that's how I became the petitioner in the Supreme Court, and the judgment came in 2014. And what did it say? That the only authority government has is to temporarily take over the financial management of the temple after establishing by record that there is a prima facie case of misuse of the funds of the temple. So here there was neither, it was just Karunanidhi saying, I'm taking it over. And second thing they said, which was also important, is that it should be for a temporary period till they've cleaned up the financial accounts. I suggested 3 years, they said 5, and this 5 years was of course not put in. They said for a short period, left it to the courts to decide what's a short period. So for the first time, Mr. Karunanidhi was shamed. The whole Tamil Nadu welcomed it. For the first time I saw them, the embedded Hindus in Tamil Nadu, too frightened to speak, now suddenly came out. And now it's an independent temple which cannot be touched. But what about the remaining of the 4 lakhs? They should act on that judgment and release it. And when I say to Tirupati, you have been under government control for 85, now 33, 87 years. And the court says only a short term. So free it. Mr. Chandrababu Naidu refused to do it. Said, file a case in court. I file a case. I'm all alone. And they come with the Advocate General, if necessary, call from Delhi, the Attorney General, and all the high-paid lawyers. And what they do is take adjournment. I have another problem. In Padmanabha Swami temple, I won the case, but the court suspended the judgment, saying, you specify to whom we are entitled to return this temple to. And the temple was owned, built by the then Maharaja of Travancore, who have been de-recognized by our constitution. So I said, you give it to that family, the family is there. They said, no, we don't recognize them. and he and the court, we don't recognize them. So that is how Padmanabha Swamy temple, I've come to the Supreme Court on that. I'm saying direct the Hindu Dharma Acharya Sabha to set up a committee and let them take it over and then give it to whoever's to be given. So I'm on that. Uttarakhand is so shocking that you can't believe it. The government has taken over 51 temples in one blow, including the Char Dham, and appointed the chief minister as the chairman of the temple, who has the power to appoint priests and dismiss them also. And I'm shocked. I wrote a letter to PM. This is against our manifesto. Silence. Now, if I win the case, I will have to say that this government must resign. People say Swamy, as usual, undisciplined. Now, you want me to be disciplined for Hindutva or you want me to be disciplined for BJP? You people will have to decide. But it's the most shameful act. I consider it similar to Duryodhan rejecting an offer of five villages. That ahankar has come over our Hindutva elements also in our country. But what is good is that the nation has revolted, and by Twitter it has been communicated that they're all standing with me. In the Uttarakhand itself, once I filed it, got notice issued, and now the final hearing, the pujaris are now on satyagraha there. In the cold climate, they are now bare-chested sitting on the ground. The whole nation knows this. And in fact, now my party cadres are telling me, you have saved our reputation. Otherwise, we would not have been able to face the public. So I think this is the story. We have to instill this. I would urge the RSS to dismiss any government. I mean, RSS has that moral power. Dismiss any government which violates any aspect of it. Even in the Ram temple, I'm telling you, I was obstructed from proceeding by Narendra Modi's government. So somewhere in the mind, we need to clear the cobwebs that doing this is not something which will create. And most of them give the usual argument there will be an upheaval. In Uttarakhand, there are no Muslims, so there's no question of upheaval. But upheaval, abhi nahi, thodi der ke baad, thodi din ke baad. I waited for 500 years, now we are not going to wait for anymore. And fortunately, the court listened to me, and we won.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Swamy. And you're right, we've all seen images of the priest sitting in front of the Kedarnath temple, with bare body. So yeah, very, very powerful imagery. Thank you very much. The next question that we wanted to ask you actually relates to a recent tweet of yours. This is a tweet from the 23rd of June, which is regarding a phone call with the HRD minister that you had.
Yeah.
And I'll actually read from your tweet where you said that he has been quietly doing very good work on education reform, and soon his proposal will be sent to the cabinet. Thereafter, the textbook committee will be fully reconstituted and anti-nationals removed. Would you care to elaborate a little bit on this, please?
Actually, he called me. And I don't know why he called me, because all he asked me is, are you in good health? You're being looked after. Is there anything I can do? And so on. I was a bit surprised. Health minister is a great friend of mine, Harshvardhan. He calling me and asking me, I can understand. But the education minister, I know who he is. I mean, we're in the same party. We have been in the national executive together, etc. But it never been sort of close. So for him to phone him up, I don't know. But then I took the initiative and told them, ये जो textbook committees हैं, इनकी जो any सारे Naxalites बैठे हुए हैं उसमें, why don't you remove them? So then he explained how he was blocked and given one bureaucratic reason another. That's another problem. Our ministers are picked on not based of experience. Modi doesn't seem to like people with experience or anybody who's over 75. And so these chaps are all dominated. Every minister, young minister I know, is dominated by the bureaucrats. First of all, they don't know the subject. And two, the bureaucrats, want everything in writing and they get scared. So the bureaucrats are giving a run around. So anyway, he seemed to be firm. And I only said he's been doing good work quietly because there is a big lobby which wants him to go. Because he's not only slow, but he also blocks everything. So those who want to do kukarm also, they're being blocked. So therefore, I decided to encourage him by supporting him. And I have supported various ministers in very crucial times, and they have benefited from my public statements. So I asked him, "Ye kya ho raha hai? Isko kab badloge?" He says, "Main kya bataun?" And then he told me the whole thing. But he said, "Finally, I am telling you, the report of the reform of education system is ready, and it will go to the cabinet very soon. And once it's done, the first thing that we have to do is reconstitute the textbook committees, and the NCERT's committee will be reconstituted, and I'll ask you for some names." So I said, "Ye pakka hai?" He said, "Absolutely pakka hai. Aap bhi thoda garm rakhiye sabko. Thoda garma garmi karte rahiye." So therefore, I am certain, because he has now to prove himself before the next reshuffle also, that he is not sent to some other ministry. This ministry has been going on, being shifted around. Somebody effective comes like Smriti Irani, then the newspapers and the liberals, they all cook up all kinds of stories, she's this, that, and then the Prime Minister is forced to send her out. So we have to now ensure that there's somebody strong comes, and then we all stand with him. And that the party stands with them. So that's, I'm assuring you that a lot of people are terribly disappointed. People like Rajiv Malhotra have been browned off, but I'm in the party, so I have a responsibility. I will ensure that after the corona goes and 3 months are over, you will hear that the committee has been reconstituted. If you think somebody should be put on it, please send me names. I'm not sure that it will be accepted, but certainly I can try.
That is wonderful. Thank you very much, Dr. Swamy. I'm now going to hand you over to our very young, enthusiastic, and committed General Secretary, Shanmugan Priyan Rajaram, for the next question. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rajiv. Good morning, Swamiji. As you rightly said, we have to stand with the good people and always have to support them. My question to you, Ji, is it is always believed that to bring a change in the community, the youth or the pillars of the future has to come forward and to join actively in politics. But at the same time, the educated people, they always feel politics is not the platform for them. And they feel like all the leaders are corrupted. And Dr. Swamiji, you have always been an inspiration to us. You always have had an excellent academic and political career. You have been an excellent academician and remained a clean politician. So could you please tell us what are the ways or how to motivate talented youth, not necessarily from a family background or, like, say, from a political family background, to come forward, and how to encourage them or, say, good people to join politics? Thank you, Dr. Swamy.
Well, based on my own experience and then generalizing from that, I'll say don't enter politics before you are 30. Ideally, probably 35. Because I would like the person who is going to enter politics to spend 15 years in family. So assuming he gets, say, married at the age of 25, then at least 10 years of peaceful life as in a married life. 2, he should make some money, and so that you don't depend on anybody, because politics is a roller coaster. My wife has written a book called Roller Coaster Ride with Swamy. There's a book which has been published by her on the state of the emergency and basically up to the year 2000, my politics. So, have this background. In my case, what has been a great fallback position is my tenure at Harvard. And this meant that any time I got into difficulty, Harvard would call me back and I would start teaching. I had not come with money made because I came at the age of 29 on the invitation of Mr. Amartya Sen, head of the department, Delhi School of Economics, to occupy the chair which only I could occupy, China Studies. I'm a specialist in China and in the China's economy. And he wrote me a written letter. He says, all cleared and your gaddi is being dusted. This is the exact word he used. Your gaddi, please come. By the time I arrived, the Congress party then in 1969 got split and the communists were needed for Indira Gandhi to stay in power. And all these left-wing characters completely changed. So when I went to Amartya Sen to say, here's your letter, I've come, I'm ready to join. What he said was, I'm sorry, circumstances have changed. I said, my PhD is no more Harvard PhD? What has changed? He said, no, your views are not acceptable to us. It's too nationalistic. I am for the atom bomb. I am for Swadeshi growth. That is no loans from foreign governments. I was not against taking money from the capital market, but from governments, I said you should take money that compromises you. All this, and they blocked me getting it. Fortunately, the Indian Institute of Technology was not that time left-wing oriented. There they heard that I've come back from Harvard. I'm looking for a job. So I was offered a professorship. I became a professor. I wrote a book, Indian Economic Planning, an Alternative Approach, where I debunked this whole state ownership. I talked about market economy and what, And Mrs. Gandhi picked up that book and read it in Parliament and said, you see what this country is coming to? The CIA has penetrated everywhere. Here is a fellow who's just come from America. She said Harvard University. And this is what he says. And she read out passages from my book. And he wants us to produce the atom bomb so that the Indian economy can collapse and the Americans can take it over. And I don't know how such people become professors at IIT. And I was sacked in a one-line letter. Their services are no more required. I said, this is illegal. So I went to court. Well, it took me from 72 to 1991 to fight it and win. And I won, but I couldn't join. I couldn't return to teaching because I had become a cabinet minister. And by then I had, lost all interest in IIT because I came back for teaching in an Indian institution, but now I'm in another institution called politics. And as far as my academics is concerned, I was going every year for the summer. And this continued, my going back to Harvard to teach and update my research till 2012, when Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, upset with my 2G spectrum, mobilized. Now Harvard's character has also changed. The Arabs have got a big share in the endowment of Harvard. And nobody who says anything which the Arabs don't like or are provoked not to like can survive there. So behind my back, you know that the principle is that you can't prosecute anybody without giving them an opportunity. Behind my back, they dug up an article I wrote years ago in a newspaper. In India, and said that you have said that the Muslims must acknowledge that their ancestors are Hindus. Otherwise, they should not be given the right to vote. I said, yes, that was my proposal. I'm not forcing it. I was in no position. They said, this is the most hate speech we have ever heard. I mean, about 25 people from the religion school who do studies of Hinduism, and therefore don't like my Hindutva movement. Amartya Sen, who had just then also become professor of philosophy. All these leftist gang got up together, and instead of going to the faculty and calling for a meeting where I would be given an opportunity to speak, they removed me. So the issue is, all these you have to go through. How can you be in politics if some event takes place where suddenly you're out in the cold, and the family then starts saying, what are we going to do? So all these things you should have mental mind. And finally, you must have the Gita message in your brain that you, like Krishna says, you have only freedom of action. The fruit of that you will get, but in what form and when, I will decide. This is what Krishna says in Gita. And that is now being taught in American corporations because all the stress is causing heart attacks left, right, and center. So if you say, I've done my best, but God, didn't give me my result, then the stress goes away. You don't feel anymore bad. Was I incompetent? Was I a fool? Did I do improper? So this attitude, God will decide the result, but I will do my action. That attitude, if you have, then come to politics. After 35, between 30 and 35, and hopefully marry a lady who can also stand up for you. My wife got a degree from Harvard. She gave me because I came back, and then got a PhD from IIT in quantum mechanics and in fluids. And then she also was sacked from IIT, or rather denied continuing teaching. And so she went back to law school and got a law degree and became a well-known lawyer. So I, the family has, I brought up two daughters, both of them doing extremely well on their own feet. One is an editor of the Hindu, the other is in the United States as a financial expert. And her husband is the vice president of MIT, Sanjay Sharma. So all these things have happened. So my advice to people is, you do your karma for the country, and you may not get what you want, but everybody else connected with you will get something. And that's what's happened in my family. I have no family responsibilities whatsoever. And that is because Lord Krishna, what Lord Krishna says in Gita, that kind of mentality, your mind will be, you will always go up and down. There is no such thing as a straight line in politics. And even if you're become a dynasty, you may go straight line in politics, then you will fall also straight to the ground, like Rahul Gandhi has fallen now, or Sonia Gandhi has fallen, all going to jail very soon in National Herald.
Thank you, Dr. Swamy. You have always been an inspiration to many of us and being the guiding force to the future generation. Now, let me pass on the mic to our most courageous Karyakarta, who's always there to lend a hand when it comes to a Hindutva cause, Mr. Apu Venugopal.
Yeah.
Thank you, Priyanji. Thank you, Dr. Swamy. Swamiji, we have about 300 people watching, so we would like to continue, but we are really respectful of your time as well. Yeah. So I would like to ask Jagdish ji a final question. If you could, Jagdish ji, share a few words on Virat Hindustan Sangam, the organization itself, being the general secretary and organizing such a wonderful event. The Words of Wisdom Gyan Ganga, almost 70 plus episodes now. If there are questions online as well, people asking how do we contribute to VHS. So if you would share a few words, that would be really wonderful.
Mute.
Thank
Please, you're on mute.
the VHS team of Australia, Dr. Rajiv Ratan, Madam Poonam Sharma, and Shanmuga Priyan, and others for organizing this interaction with VHS Australia and the diaspora in Australia. So I thank the team for having organized this. As I started mentioning in the earlier part of the program, VHS was started in September 2014 in New Delhi. Earlier, virtually from 2010, lot of Hindutva warriors and anti-corruption crusaders who were impressed with Dr. Swamy's struggle used to periodically meet in various cities of India and abroad to support his movement, especially those who are on Twitter and the social media. And this led to an organization, what we called as Tweeples, means those who are on social media, Twitter followers. And Dr. Swamy used to call them patriotic Tweeples, PTs. And we used to have regular interaction and discussion on various subjects, and a lot of experts used to guide the younger generation on what is to be done forward. So in 2014, we all decided to convert this into an organization known as Virat Hindustan Sangam. And part of this organization, we have this unit in Australia, and I thank you for your support for our movement. Basically, Virat Hindustan Sangam stands for 5 principles, and that is our vision. We always have our website and which mention this, and our main emphasis is on that. Who am I? Means the whole idea is, who am I as an Indian? What is my past, my heritage of being a Bharatiya or a Hindustani? What is it? I am part of this ancient civilization. It's not that I am part of 1947 or 1950 that India has come into existence, but I am part of a legacy that is India, Hindustan or Bharat, which I am proud of. Number 2, rewriting of Indian history, as Dr. Swamy has briefly mentioned to you, the rewriting of Indian history, the emphasis is on that. Third, to promote Sanskrit as a link language and understand the greatness of this language. Fourth is integral humanism as a economic theory where we have materialism balanced with spiritualism, and that was propounded by Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay ji, one of the important presidents of the Jansangh. That is integral humanism. And fifth is all aspects of Ram Rajya, that is good governance, that is anti-corruption movement, good governance. That Ram Rajya doesn't just mean one aspect of it, like building the Ram temple at Ayodhya, but all aspects of good governance is part of Ram Rajya. We believe for these main 5 factors, which makes us a proud Indian, is what we have been trying to spread. So we are not a political organization. Most of us may be from a political party or some social organization, and friends of the Sangh Parivar are closely associated with our organization. We are catching basically the young minds. In fact, most of our people are either from the IT sector, financial sector, and all educated youth come to Dr. Swamy's program. So we basically harness this youth energy and make it into a Virat Hindustan Sangam. So in short, I would like to say that this is the organization which Dr. Subramanian Swamy heads. You are the Australia unit. Similar units are there all over parts of the world and in virtually 23 states of India. So this is a movement. We have regular meetings. Some of you all, especially Appu, Venugopal and others have attended our annual session. So we look forward in future, some of you all coming to our annual sessions in India. We have it in different cities, and perhaps we can have a virtual. Now today we are having a virtual meeting. Unfortunately, in the past once or twice we were scheduled to come to Australia, but we could not. It could not materialize. So we hope in future also we will have some meetings, physical meetings with you all in Australia. So in short, this is what I would like to say. But I would also like to ask Dr. Swamy to do give us some advice to the VHS Australia team and for the Indians who have been settled in Australia. So
Sure.
with your permission, I will tell Dr. Swamy to give us some advice for VHS Australia and the Indians who are in Australia. Thank you.
Well, just to say, last time I made a program to come and not couldn't come basically because of security advice that it's not that I will be in danger, but our organizers could be in the danger from the LTT. All your most of LTT doctors and lawyers who used to finance the LTT are settled in Australia. Of course, now there is no LTT, and people have long forgotten it in Sri Lanka, and they're going to re-elect Rajapaksa again. So that matter is over now. So I look forward to a future visit. There are two things I would add to our Naveen Hindustan, the Virat Hindustan Sangam. I use the word Hindustan and not Hindu because there are Muslims in our organization who accept all these 5 points. And they speak Sanskrit. They have learned Sanskrit also. They say, yes, we have our way of worshiping God, but culturally we are the same because we have descended from the Hindus. So if I find any Muslim who is ready to say that I am a descendant of Hindus and this is my land and I cannot come from somewhere else, then we take him as a member. And that's why I've used the word Hindustan and not Hindu. In fact, Hindustan was certified by Iqbal, the great poet of theirs, who said, "Sare jahan se acha Hindustan hamara." So this is one aspect. Second is on women. You see our scriptures, if I may call it that. Women have always played the most important role at crucial junctures. Sita, I mean, they have been portrayed in the English versions of Ramayana in a very bad way. But she was a very determined lady. And when Hanuman went to Ashok Vatika and said, Rama is grieving for you, so why don't you just sit on my shoulder and I'll take you there? And why bother for Rama to come? She said, no, he has to come here because there are so many women who are in distress here. They all have to be liberated, and therefore he must come and kill Ravana. Then only I will come. So this is one. Second is she going to forest after she became pregnant. That is her decision, because when Rama came back with her from Sitamarhi or wherever, from Bihar to Ayodhya, upon entering the palace, he said, there's a tradition of us giving presents to the wives who come for the first time to the house of the husband. And I'll give you one present. I will not look at another woman. I will not marry anyone else. My father married 3. And this is all there in the Valmiki Ramayana. And therefore, I give you my word. And she said, in return, I am telling you, anytime I feel in your administration is being put in difficulty and you are yourself, I will leave and don't try to stop me. And that's how she went away to the forest. It was not he drove away. So this is one. Second, I tell my favorite anecdote is that Brahma had a cabinet in which all the important portfolios are with women gods. Education with Saraswati, finance with Lakshmi, and defense with Durga. In fact, when all the gods failed to defeat the Asuras, Shiva went and fell at Parvati's feet and said, please save us. And then she took the form of Kali. So women can be both Ambika as well as they can be Kali. So that was the status, and that women chose a role in which physical strength was not required, and they played that role. Either when Shankaracharya, Adi Shankara, and Mandana Mishra debated, one Buddhist scholar, another or Uttara Mimamsa school scholar, and the other was a scholar of Hindutva, or what is called our most advanced form of Hinduism. And these two were Advaita, as it was called. These two were to debate who's going to umpire. And so Mandana Mishra said, my wife can, or no, Shankaracharya said to Mandana Mishra, your wife can be the referee. And she refereed and declared her husband loser. And that's how her husband had to go to Karnataka as the first Shringeri Acharya. So these are stories which need to be told about gender equality. And all these habits, all these negative things that we have developed have come from Mughal rule and the British rule. And they are not part of Hindu theology. And so let me therefore say that this organization is primarily for the find of a mindset, a Hindu mindset or a Hindustani mindset. And Hindu, by the way, defined in the Constitution, Article 25, Explanation 2, is Hindu is someone who is not a Muslim or a Christian or a Parsi. Of course, in my opinion, Parsis are also originally from Hindus. Zarathustra was in Saurashtra before he fought and went away and created in Persia. And Persia, Kaikeyi was from Persia. She was a queen, she was a princess of Persia. And so Persia was also a part of India at that time. But anyway, at the time the British left and the constitution of the Ming when Parsis were thought of as people who came as refugees to India, but that's not quite the correct thing. But anyway, that's for the future. But they say if you're not a Muslim, if you're not a Hindu, or if you're not a Christian, or if you're not a Parsi, then whoever you are a Hindu. And so the Hindu definition includes Buddhists, Jains, Sikhs, and we must regard them as Hindus and bring them around, because in the last 100 years, we have created so much animosity amongst ourselves that Sikhs think themselves separately, and especially after Operation Blue Star, and so on. So what I call this, when I say Virat Hindu, I mean all these aspects, and that is what you got to keep in mind. Anything else?
Thank you, Dr. Swamy. It was a wonderful, enlightening talk. Thank you, Jagdish ji and Ramesh ji for setting up this for us. I would like to request Priyan ji to conclude the show with a vote of thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Apu. Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you, Jagdish ji. I deem it's a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks in such a distinguished and intellectually stimulating session, or say gathering, I would say. Let me start by giving glory to the Almighty God for making today's session a resounding success. I thank our chief guest, Hindutva warrior, instead I should say emergency hero, Dr. Swamiji, who despite his busy schedule has found time to deliver an inspiring and intellectually stimulating talk. Thank you, Dr. Swamiji. And we are grateful to Sri Jagdish Shetty ji for his encouragement to have a virtual session here in Australia and for bringing Dr. Swamiji to Australia. Thank you, Jagdish ji, and thank you, Ramesh ji, for today's session. I would like to thank
you again in Australia. Yeah, go ahead, I interrupted you.
Yes, sorry, ji. I thank all the distinguished invitees present here, accepting our invitation, and humble thanks to all the Karyakartas from various Parivar organizations in Australia and in Bharat who have joined us today. Last but not least, I'd like to thank our VHS family friends in Australia and in Bharat for making the event a successful one. Once again, I thank you all for your attention. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Dhanyavadam.
you. Right. Dhanyavad.
Dhanyavad.
Yes.